Module 8.3, Hearing Loss and Hearing Protection. To start, here are a few definitions for you. Hearing loss is an inability to hear. The hearing loss may be partial or total. A person with hearing loss may be able to understand speech. Deafness is an inability to understand speech. Profound deafness means that there is no hearing at all. We discussed threshold shift in the last module. Threshold shift refers to the difference in dB between the lowest curve on the equal loudness contour and the threshold of hearing, the softest sound that you can hear. If there is hearing loss, the threshold has shifted so that a sound needs to be louder to be heard. This difference is shown on an audiogram. Someone with perfect hearing will have a curve on the 0 dB line, so there's 0 dB difference. Someone with threshold shift will have a curve below the 0 dB line. Fatigue and adaptation will cause the threshold of hearing to rise. For example, let's say that normally the softest sound you can hear is 10 dB SPL. You go to a very loud music concert and then have your hearing tested right after the concert. You would probably find that the softest sound you could hear would be 50 dB, a threshold shift of 40 dB. Your symptoms would be that sounds appear to be muffled, it's harder to hear someone speaking to you a few feet away, or sounds appear to be softer than usual. Noise-induced hearing loss, or NIHL. Noise-induced hearing loss is caused by repeated exposure to loud sounds. NIHL is usually centered around 4 kHz. This is because the resonant frequency of the ear canal is about 4K, and so sounds near that frequency are naturally amplified. Noise-induced hearing loss will show up on an audiogram as a dip at 4 kHz. The dip at 4K may or may not be accompanied by an overall threshold shift. Someone with NIHL would be able to hear speech, but might have trouble understanding it, as that frequency range is where sibilants, s, sh, ch sounds, have most of their energy. Noise-induced hearing loss can be temporary or permanent. Presbycusis. Presbycusis is a hearing loss of high frequencies. It is a natural symptom of aging. The cilia responsible for detecting high frequencies are near the base of the cochlea near the oval window, so they get hit with all the vibrations from the ossicles. Presbycusis has a different curve from noise-induced hearing loss. Initial symptoms are difficulty understanding speech, and as it progresses, difficulty hearing soft sounds. Children can usually hear up to 20 kHz. Adults have an upper limit of 10 to 14 kHz. By age 70, most people have an upper limit of 8 kHz. If you can hear a high-pitched whine when you're near an old-style TV, that is a frequency of 15.75 kHz. Most young people can hear it, while adults don't. There are cell phone ringtones, like the mosquito ringtone, that young people can hear, but adults cannot. Those ringtones are usually at 17 kHz. Tinnitus. Have you ever had this happen to you? You went to a wedding and the band was very loud. After the wedding, you heard a ringing or high-pitched sound in your ears. If you were lucky, the sound went away after an hour or so, or by the time you woke up the next day. If you weren't lucky, the ringing persisted. Hearing a constant sound that is not produced by something outside of your head is called tinnitus, pronounced either tinnitus or tinnitus. In some people, it presents itself as a whooshing sound, or to some people, it sounds like crickets. It can be caused by exposure to loud sounds, as a side effect to some medications, or as a result of trauma or illness. Tinnitus can be debilitating. For some people, it is very loud and never ending. Tinnitus can be temporary or it can be permanent. Conductive and sensory neural hearing loss. If hearing loss is due to a problem in the outer or middle ear, it is called conductive hearing loss. Typical causes of conductive hearing loss are excessive earwax on the eardrum, earwax or another object closing off the ear canal, a tear in the eardrum, fluid in the middle ear, ossification of the ossicles. If there is damage to the eardrum, there is danger of middle ear infection. A torn eardrum can usually heal, but often there is a scar which could reduce high-frequency hearing. Most forms of conductive hearing loss can be fixed, so normal hearing can be restored. Hearing loss that occurs in the inner ear or with the transmission of nerve impulses in the brain is called sensory neural hearing loss. In most cases, sensory neural hearing loss is permanent, and it's due to the delicate hair cells on the organ of Corti getting damaged or destroyed. Here's a picture of healthy hair cells. IHC stands for the inner hair cells, and they're the main cells that detect sound and send signals to the brain. OHC are the outer hair cells, and their main function is to amplify soft sounds. Here's another photo of healthy hair cells. This next photo shows damaged and missing hair cells. This is usually the result of exposure to loud sounds. Sensory neural hearing loss is usually confirmed by a bone conduction test with an audiometer. If an otoscope exam is clear and the audiometer test shows hearing loss with headphones, a bone conduction test will be performed. A small device called a bone conduction oscillator is put behind the ear, pressing against the mastoid bone of the skull. The bone conduction oscillator vibrates, and those vibrations travel through the bone to the cochlea. If the bone conduction test indicates normal hearing, then the problem is likely to be in the middle ear. If the bone conduction test confirms hearing loss, the hearing loss is sensory neural.